Ah, February. A time for hot cocoa, shoveling snow until your back aches, and gathering all your tax documents in hopes the government isn't going to fist you bloody this time. And also the perfect time to watch some quality TV shows and partake in some fun video games. That is, for the most part, what I've been doing throughout this month, and something I'd like to share with all of you. Welcome to the first episode of the Medial Monthly. While this episode is free to the public, this series is a Subscribestar exclusive clusterfuck where I talk about my media journey throughout each month. If you enjoy the aimless, slightly deranged words I spew here, then consider subscribing for either $3 or $5 a month over there to hear even more, and to get other perks like your name at the end of my videos and updates on big video series. With that painful excuse for an advertisement out of the way, it's time to get started on telling you how I've been spending my time. And what better way to start than with one of my weekly obsessions, Severance Season 2. As mentioned in this overly long mess, I am a huge fan of Apple TV Plus's mind-bending thriller about a bunch of people who can't remember where they work. Season 2 has been nothing short of fantastic, even if the plot has been a little slower than I would have liked. Yeah, it turns out there were a number of behind-the-scenes issues during production that kept the series from being on one track throughout the entirety of the season. But, so far, 5 episodes in as of writing, the show's been very engaging and always moving forward, even if it's sometimes moving at a slower pace than I'd like, especially after Season 1's cliffhanger promised way more than has been delivered so far. Despite that, I'm still rooting for the show. It's clear the creatives behind it have a vision for what they want it to become, and I'm willing to see it through to the end. This is the best show I'm watching right now, and something I'll keep watching week to week as new episodes drop. Looking forward to seeing how the story develops, and despite some slowness here and there, I'd still highly recommend this one, especially for those who like mystery box shows that actually go somewhere. Because yes, there is a plan, and yes, the show probably has another season or two in it after this one for everything to fall into place. Although given its recent rise to become Apple TV Plus's most popular show ever, it does worry me they'll try and stretch it out to be longer than necessary. Fingers crossed that won't happen, and the show will maintain its dignity up until the very end. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have another weekly show that I, for some reason, can't pull myself away from. Yellow Jackets, the TV show about cannibal high schoolers getting lost in the woods with an added future timeline of plotting drama, has used sunk cost fallacy to keep me glued to my seat. Or maybe it's because Lottie is best girl, and how could I leave her behind? While Season 1 was okay and then became good by the end, Season 2 had a slightly opposite effect on me. It started out really strong, with some fucked up stuff happening to our heroes, and with a bunch of craziness thanks to the aforementioned most fun character. However, the final 3 episodes of Season 2 were, to put it lightly, fucking dog shit. I've never seen a TV show go from a decently fun 6 out of 10 to the equivalent of a dumpster full of flaming manure, and while I wanted to quit, I decided I would try giving it another chance. After all, there are 3 strikes in baseball, and Yellow Jackets only had 1. Yes, I know they're a soccer team, that wasn't supposed to be a joke, shut the fuck up. However, the show did manage to earn another strike, thanks to a story that now feels like it's plotting and meandering around in circles. The first 2 episodes of Season 3 have been an improvement over the end of Season 2, but everything feels so wishy-washy right now in terms of quality. I think my biggest issue comes from a major character death that happened in the adult timeline during the last episodes of Season 2. In Season 3, said character's younger version has an important role to play, but it all feels pretty moot when I know what her fate is going to be. It also doesn't help the show introduce the big gay for a character entirely out of nowhere. It feels like it's starting to rely more on shocking twists in the story than actually taking the story in a particular direction. It's getting stale, and honestly makes me wonder if the creators were being honest about having a 5-season plan for the series. But you know what? Fuck it. Unless they do something absolutely appalling to Lottie, I'm going to keep watching. But if they do, then you'll never hear me talk about it again. Plus, I'm watching a better mystery show anyway. Because, in the throes of my watching modern garbage like Yellow Jackets, I've also decided to go back in time to watch something a little more classic. Because, between watching different shows week to week, I also make sure to have one show that's already complete that I can watch casually. And my first choice for this year was Twin Peaks. I had never seen Twin Peaks before this month, nor anything else by David Lynch, and I do feel slightly guilty that it was his passing that finally spurred me to watch the show. But having finished Season 1, I can say with certainty the series is now one of my favorites. Ever. Yes, it is that good. A murder mystery in a small town, tinged with horror and drama, while also being both a love letter and parody to soap operas of the late 80s. Not to mention highly memorable characters, the best of which is Kyle MacLachlan's Agent Dale Cooper. Another interesting element about Twin Peaks is that most inspiration for the way modern serialized TV shows are structured came from this show. It's pretty much the architect for all the American TV you see today, although admittedly had more pull on stuff produced between the 90s and the 2010s. These historical elements notwithstanding, notwithstanding, the show is very good, offering high-quality surrealism with elements of drama, comedy, thriller, crime story, action, and supernatural, all rolled into one. Seriously, Season 1 was an astounding feat, to the point where I am considering making an hours-long video about the show. Assuming the quality keeps up, of course. Since I like going through finished shows rather slowly, I'm not sure how far into Season 2 I'll get next month, especially because Season 1 was only 8 episodes, but Season 2 is 22. But I am very much looking forward to seeing how the tension and events build off one another into the future. By the way, did I mention the structure of these videos is going to be a complete nightmare for you? Good, because we're back to talking about a show that's airing weekly. Invincible has had its ups and downs, with the ups being in the storytelling department and the downs being in the animation quality. However, Season 3 has managed to impress, not only because of its highs in the story, but also the lows in its animation. While I got the impression Season 2 was a bridge season that was going to lead into a bigger story in the following episodes, I'm 5 in so far and it doesn't really feel that way. Like, seeds are still being planted for stuff that doesn't feel like it's going to happen until way later in the future. Probably by Seasons 5 and 6, given the 8-season plan creator Robert Kirkman has for the series. So even though we're technically in early days, I do desire a little more from Invincible. That's not to say it's bad, of course. Its villain of the week feels like a return to form after Season 2 threw a bajillion different stories at us at the same time. I'm also really enjoying the expanded focus on characters like Rex and the weekly villains that show up. I think I'm just expecting a little bit more from the story at this point, even though we're essentially still in the first act of a much larger tale. Also, I really hope they hire more animators, or even try and release seasons once every 18 months so they can offer some higher quality. It's serviceable, and I get they save a lot for bigger battles, but I do wish the characters were at least a little more expressive when they talked. But I'm willing to trust Kirkman's plan, even if the wait for bigger plot threads to move forward is making me feel detached from the narrative. Speaking of being detached from the narrative, I'm insane. Something is deeply wrong with me, and I'm the only one who's noticed. So much is wrong, in fact, that I'm watching One Piece. But it gets worse. See, I'm not doing what a normal person would do and make it the only show to watch given its ungodly length. No, I've been watching it off and on for 2.5 years, and I've recently finished the Arabasta saga, which includes the post-Arabasta arc. Yes, I'm watching the filler, and no amount of telling me your suggested watch order is going to stop me. I've enjoyed these fun little episodes of Luffy and the gang being Luffy and the gang. In fact, I think the filler is fun, as long as you consider it non-canon and disregard its place in the larger plot. Should I be reading the manga instead? Probably. But watching Chopper freak out over Robin's general presence and having Sanji teach a kid how to cook were fun adventures I'm glad I could go on. And of course, with a large stretch of filler ahead, the next time I watch the show, you can expect me to talk about even more stuff that doesn't matter. I say next time because this really is a show I keep accidentally dropping for months before watching 20 to 30 episodes in a row, and we've hit the cap, meaning it's time for hibernation. Besides, I still have plenty of other things to watch, including stuff on the internet made by people with more talent in their right thumbs than I do in my entire body. As someone who enjoys internet horror, but who hasn't caught up on Kane Pixel's Backrooms or Oldest View series, I decided to try his shorter, newer one as it felt more accessible. People Still Live Here is a 2005 video game where you run around a big empty space collecting shit while things associated with trains try to kill you. Or not you, but rather the protagonist of this game playing it. I have to be honest, I'm not sure why I watched it, because liminal spaces don't have the same impact on me as they do other Zoomers. Apparently people find them scary and unsettling, while I just think they're featureless. Not that that's a bad thing, however, as Kane has always been really good at using it for horror-related purposes. In this instance, it works wonders because things constantly happen in said spaces, making them feel both empty and alive at the same time. While haunted video game series aren't always the best, this one includes interludes in the form of live-action videos, hinting at something else going on. I've seen 2 main videos and 3 interludes so far, and they've all been quite intriguing. I'm gonna keep an eye on this and see what happens next. But sometimes, instead of watching something that's ongoing, I like to do a little thing called actually finish something. School Rumors is a short horror series I found on YouTube after a Nightmind video showed up for it. Yes, unlike the masses, I follow Mr. Nocturne's instructions and tune into the full projects he discusses. And, in this instance, it was actually compelling right from the start. School Rumors is, for all intents and purposes, a roguelike. The gimmick is simple. Every few years, a student at a private high school takes an elevator down to a basement that isn't supposed to be there. Each video follows a new character, charmingly all played by the same person. Every video also depicts them dying in various ways while offering new information about what's going on under the school. Each character basically picks up where the other left off, with new info arriving as everyone gets a little further every time. It's a completed series on the Beckett Wagner YouTube channel, and it takes a little over an hour to watch. A really great series, and I highly recommend anyone interested in the premise to cozy up with a snack and watch it on a dark and stormy night. Fun and terrifying at the same time, and a very impressive use of environmental storytelling on top of it. Definitely makes me want to keep tabs on its creator to see what else he ends up making later down the road. And because this video is a jumbled mess, we're back to weekly TV. Because nothing's more horrifying than having to wait before a new episode of a fun show comes out. Luckily, Reacher Season 3 dropped its first 3 episodes at the same time. This season, our intrepid, hulking nomad is on a mission to stop a rug company from selling imported goods, which, surprise, surprise, isn't carpeting. Well, Season 2 was a little cheesy and had some moments that felt like they were leaning almost into parody. Season 3 has been great so far. It definitely feels closer to the earnest tone of Season 1, while leaning into some more comedic aspects introduced in Season 2. They picked a good book to adapt and clearly took their time with it, which I appreciate a lot. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this all shapes up week to week and what fun moments are in store. God, I love it when this Sasquatch man punches the shit out of people. But what would being a good little slop consumer be without watching slop in the movie theater? I had high hopes for The Monkey. Not only is it an adaptation of a Stephen King short story, but it was directed by Longlegs creator Osgood Perkins. Plus, as a horror comedy, I expected it to lean into the goofier aspects of the film's premise. A killer monkey that beats its drum and then makes someone die in a Final Destination-style freak accident. What could go wrong? Well, a lot. Because I thought the movie was kinda shit. Now, the first half hour or so is compelling. It's actually taking its monkey business seriously with a few awkward stumbles into humor here and there. But once the turn of the story happens, everything just falls apart. It'd be one thing if the movie was actually funny, but it really isn't. It feels like a cobbled together mess that's afraid to be too scary or too funny, like I'm watching the screen have an identity crisis in real time. It made for a pretty bad experience overall, and around 20 minutes before the movie ended, I was tapped out. I could probably talk about this thing at length, spoilers and all, but there's no point. It's money and time not very well spent, meaning I need to be even more selective about which movies I decide to see in theaters. Because I was kind of looking forward to this one, and the fact that it wasn't that good is really disappointing. But I don't want to end these on a sour note, so here's something we can all agree is a good time. Zenless Zone Zero. I have finally dug my way back into the gacha trenches in hopes of saving up enough rolls for whenever Burn Ice comes back. The last time I played was when I got Hoshimi after having built up a big pity on Burn Ice's first run. Now we're in 1.5 with a 1.6 right around the corner. As of writing and recording, I have no idea if my future Harem member is coming back yet. But what I do know is that I finished Chapter 2. Yes, that's how far behind in the story I am. I love the Bellabog Industries characters, who all have fun personalities that make each of them stand out. I think my favorites are probably a tie between Anton and Grace. Anton because he makes a good first impression for the team, and Grace because she's surprisingly good in situations she doesn't have direct experience in. Both of them make for some dynamic characters, and it's the type of writing that makes me excited to see what they do with the Sons of Calydon when they finally arrive. If I'm even pronouncing that right, God hates me when I try and pronounce anything Asian. Speaking of, I am doing my best not to roll for Poltra. I really, really want her too, but I also refuse to spend money on a gacha game that uses the word Riz. You know, the Gen Alpha slang for attractive that sounds like an STD. So I'm on free currency for this one, meaning I have to be selective. I will do my best to control myself, but at this point, Plankton is piloting. And that's it for the Medial Monthly February 2025 edition. I have no formal outro, but I do have a surprise. If there is something you think I'd like that you want me to check out, whether it's movies, TV shows, games, books, comics, manga, anime, music, fucking Salvador Dali paintings, which I've already admired consistently for several years, haha, get fucked, tell me under the subscribe star post for this video, and I'll add it to my list. This doesn't mean I'm going to do it anytime soon, probably not for like at least 4 months, if I'm being generous. But I like to know what my audience likes, and if I haven't experienced it yet, I'm willing to give it a shot. And with that, we sail ahead towards the beginning of spring, where the flowers bloom, the birds start singing, and I stay indoors, because the world is my enemy.